Welcome today to this grant writing workshop. I'm going to try to focus on some areas that probably are more focused for individual artists, but we will also be going over sections that will help with organizations applying for grants as well. But we will be focusing a lot on the ArtSpark grant guidelines, which are in front of you because we are in a cycle of ArtSpark. And I think most of you are probably here as individual artists anyway. But a lot of this stuff is transferable. So today's agenda, we're going to look at a few different things. We will start off with a few of the basics. The secret to reading guidelines, which you've already started doing. And the big secret is that there is no secret. It's, you just actually have to read them. Number 2 is an artist bio versus an artist statement. I know that this trips a lot of people up, so we're just going to go over that briefly. Number 3, we're going to look at conveying a comprehensive story. That's the area that we'll spend the most time today, because I think that that's probably what most people want to know, is how to get their point across. And then we'll look at some tips on making grant writing less daunting. So, okay. My name is AcA Kojevnikov. I am the Community Engagement Director here at Acadiana Center for the Arts. But I haven't always worked here, and I clearly haven't always been here. So what this picture might tell you is that I used to work in film. I produced films. So I produced 10 short films, 1 feature film. That's not me, which is the one that is listed here. I started at ACA in 2021. So I've been here for almost 5 years. And in 2022, I started a nonprofit. So just to give you an overview of where my grant writing experience comes from, I've been an artist. I've helped a lot of people with their grants through ACA. And I also write from an organizational perspective through my nonprofit, which is, for anyone interested, the Lafayette Tool Library. Come and see us on Saturdays. But what about you? And I know some of you came to the information session. There's a few additional questions, but why don't you scan this QR code? Because I want to know where you're coming from today as well. All right. So we're going to get started with the basics. There are a couple of things that I want to get out of the way really quick, just because I think that they're simple ideas. But then we'll get into some more deep diving into some other subjects. First up, what are guidelines? So most of you spent some time looking through the guidelines that we provided and highlighting sections and keywords that you thought were important. Most applications have guidelines. Any kind of grant applications are going to have something of the sort. It might not necessarily be called guidelines, but their website will have a list of criteria that you're going to have to meet before you're applying. So they're essentially guidelines. The ArtSpark guidelines are called guidelines, but they're not always that obviously guidelines. So they're essentially a roadmap to submitting a proposal that adheres to the goals of the program that you're applying to. They include instructions and sometimes critical clues to what a funder is looking for. It's a checklist that ensures your application is complete and competitive. And so, as I said, you've all probably gone through and highlighted some things. Does anybody want to share some of their thoughts about what they highlighted and why? Eligibility? Program focus? The dates? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're all like really important, and eligibility is absolutely the first place that you should start, because if you're not eligible, then you're wasting your time. But all of the guidelines are important. I recommend reading them from top to bottom. So when we're looking at these ones in particular, you'll see how many highlights I have on here. What we're already seeing just in the mission is a lot of really important information. So let's see. So in the mission of the program on the front page, we really get a picture of what the fund is looking for. So we've got words like entrepreneur, short-term projects, community outreach, economic development. These really just kind of give you an idea of the type of project that we're looking for, particularly with ArtSpark. And any guidelines that you read will have a lot of these keywords that you will have to, take into account when you're writing your applications. As Candace said, eligibility is the first section that you should be considering, because if you're not eligible, you can't apply. A major part of any grant submission is the review criteria. It's listed in these ArtSpark guidelines as the review process. So it has every section, every guidelines will have something that really details what the panelists are using as a checklist to rate and score your application. So if we look at the ArtSpark review process, we've got things like clarity, timeline, appropriate request level, clearly defined project deliverables, those types of things. And then, as I said, the whole document is really important to read, but then I also just want to point out that if it's in the document, it's probably relevant. So another part of these guidelines is you'll see there's a section about the small business development at leader or outreach. If it's in there, there's a reason for it. There's also generally a way for you to contact administrators of the program. So if you have any questions that don't make sense to you in the guidelines, reaching out to your administrators is a really good idea. Reaching out to your administrators is a good idea even if you don't have questions, because building that relationship with your funders is a really important part of this. My recommendation is whenever you're starting a new application for a grant is to look through, highlight keywords, and start a checklist of things that you want to include in your application. Definitely needs to include all of those review criteria. Those keywords that I read out, how does your project or your submission address those? Yeah. Okay. We're going to move on quickly to artist bio versus artist statement. I know that this isn't relevant to some people in the room, but bear with us. This won't be a long discussion topic. So this is an area for artists that we see is a struggle sometimes, and it's distinguishing between what those two things are asking for. So a bio is a really technical retelling of your career and accomplishments. Years you went to college, important positions held, relevant accomplishments, awards, etc. Up here is one that I wrote for myself. AcA Kojevnikov is a Melbourne-born filmmaker and graduate of Australia's premier arts institute, the Victorian College of the Arts. Since graduating in 2009, she has produced 10 short films and 1 feature film with works recognized by Sundance, Cannes Critics Weeks, and she was selected to attend the Berlinale Talent Campus in 2012. Her debut feature, That's Not Me, received the Best Feature Film under a $500,000 award at the 2018 Ozflix Independent Film Awards. She's also worked on production teams for television series, including Australia's Ninja Warrior, Discovery Channel's Deadly Women, and The Bold and the Beautiful during its Sydney production. She currently works as the Community Engagement Director at the Acadiana Centre for the Arts, where her primary goal is to engage creatives in professional development opportunities across the 8-parish region of Acadiana. Very dry, direct, and clearly illustrates my expertise in the field and my professional goals. I do have another example of a bio that isn't mine. This is a bio of an artist who submitted a few years ago. Again, you'll see that they talk about being an artist and an educator, raised in Michigan. She's a teacher. She currently administers the BFA program. She's shown nationally, internationally, in gallery spaces, including Ogden Museum. Should use this, of Southern Arts in New Orleans. She's exhibited in Barcelona. You know, it's really giving you a good sense that this person has been an artist for many years and is operating at the highest level of her career. Okay, so that's bios. Questions about bios? Same artist. This is her artist statement. I explore a range of photographic techniques spanning historical processes, primitive cameras, and digital technology. I'm drawn to the social and historical uses of our natural environment, as well as the properties of the earth. This is evident in the series Helios, an exploration of the sun's light. I'm not going to read the rest of it, but you'll notice that we really get a picture of how this artist thinks when they're creating their work, what drives and motivates them. So where bio is dry and technical and all about facts, this really gives you a picture of what is driving her and what are her inspirations when she's creating her work. The statement is also a really good place to talk about universal themes throughout your work as well. So if you're not sure where to start, some universal themes that you could be considering are relationships, change, conflict, exploration, force or influence, order, patterns, power, structure, systems, relationships. So, you know, it really has to have a basis for why you're creating your work. One note I wanted to make is that there are some discrepancies about using first and third person in bio and statement. Some people think that, you know, bio should be in first and statement should be in third, or flipped around. I think that it doesn't matter as long as the information within the bio and the statement are correct. So just keep that in mind. Don't stress too much about first or third person. Just make sure that you've got the distinction between the two correct. All right, let's move on to the big question that we're here for today, is how to tell that comprehensive story. Really, it's about joining the dots amongst all of the different sections of any grant submission. It's the who, what, where, when, why, and how are you making these projects. So basically what this means is that what we're looking for when we're reading applications, when panelists are reading applications, is how do all of these sections communicate with each other? So you've written a narrative and you're telling us that this person is going to go out and create frames for my paintings. But how much does that cost? What stage of the project is that happening? It's making sure that you have names of the people who are doing these tasks, these activities, having bios for them. What else have we got in here? What does the outreach and community engagement look like? That portion needs to be just as well planned. If it's in the guidelines, it needs to be just as well planned as the narrative and the crux of the project. So let's look at an example. This is a really dense slide I'm about to show you, so but we'll look at it. So, all right, this is a funded project. So Denise made a children's musical based on a picture book that she had written. And that was her project. She's a mature artist, so she was really trying to like broaden her horizons with her skills. So she was kind of adding onto her already existing skills by doing something totally new. So when we're looking at the who, what, where, when, why, how questions, this is just part of her project, but all of these questions are answered here. So let's look at who. So for who, it's we've got musicians, we've got kids, we've got a sound designer, we've got a lighting designer. What? I mean, the biggest question really is the what. And we know that she's producing straight up in her first sentence of her project description. She's producing a children's musical based off of her picture book. We get a really quick understanding of what her project is. Where is this happening? Well, right here, we can see she's doing it at Wonderland Performing Arts. How is she doing this? She is constructing costumes, sets, and props. She is, what have we got here? Creating lyrics. She's working with people. Why is she doing this? Because she's a published illustrator and she's trying to push herself in a new direction artistically. The reason that I brought these other two sections up is because these things relate to each other. So in here, we're reading that she's working with Alison Brandon. She's working with Colin Smith. She's working with a sound designer and a lighting designer. Over here in the providers of services, where she's listing these people's names, we can see how much she's paying each of them. She's not only listed them, she's provided details about what roles they're playing, and she also gave us bios for each of these people. So we know their expertise. This really proves their expertise. It means that she is working with a bunch of people who know what they're doing. This is her first time doing a theater performance, but she's working with people who know how to do a theater performance, and she is guiding them through this process as well with her creative direction. And then when we look at this section here, which is the budget, we're trying to figure out how she came to these numbers. Well, when we look at the first four listed, if we add that up, that's $2,800, which is the artistic providers of service. They're people who are providing services that have an artistic element. One could argue that the photographer is also an artistic service, but she's put them into the technical section. But all of these clues help us figure out how she's determining where these things are coming from. I know there's a lot of information up there that is missing, which is part of the problem for a lot of people here today, but the application itself had all of these details in there. Do we have questions about what we're seeing here and how they relate to each other?
But in this application, which part was
the why? Yeah. Over here in her intended outcomes, this whole section really goes about the why. And specifically, she's looking to push herself in a new direction artistically, but this whole section really does address that area. And, you know, the top one is the first question in the narrative, which is really listing all of the project stuff. And this is the second question. So they're not always going to fit neatly into the questions that we have in any application form. So how do we get from a blank page to knowing all of those answers? All right, so what I'm going to get you to do now is another quick activity. On page 2 of that activity workbooks is a quick exercise. Take 5 minutes to write a short paragraph about your project. If you don't have a specific project in mind, I've given you some ideas to work with. You can use them or you can make something up as well. And it just needs to be a short paragraph using the who, what, where, when, why, how method. And then we'll move on to the next part of that. So, does anyone want to read out their quick, short paragraph about their project? Go ahead.
I just did mine kind of bullet.
Yep. That's okay.
But who Meow Wolf Animal Collective and Cafe, would I need to necessarily put my specific name, like Amy LeBlanc?
No, that's okay.
The What Animal Cafe, a friendly foster home for cats and dogs displaced by the death of their human or another major life change. Keeping people and pets together, where 2905 East Simcoe by the end of 2026 to help animals displaced by death stay out of shelters. And then the How community support, donations, grants, volunteers, coffee, tea sales, cafe membership, fundraisers.
Okay. Anyone else? Hi.
Because of that conversation, I kind of just imagined, but it was an open mic. I'd be facilitating at a theater, like a wordplay about wordplay.
Uh-huh.
It would be for myself and other spoken word artists. And the why was it kind of mimicked Denise's, to push myself as an artist because I've done it and I would love to do it on a bigger
Okay.
scale.
Anyone else want to share? Okay. So, let's think about how those things all correlate to these other sections. So if we think about the open mic, what do you need to do to get to the point where you're doing your very first open mic? What are some of the activities that you would need to do to set that up?
Scale, open mics, or maybe like community gatherings. I would maybe as research go out to other open mics that it may be on a bigger scale, researching and talking to other spoken word artists. Because it would be in a theater, I'd have to reach out to lighting and all stuff that I have absolutely no idea about.
Yeah, you'd have to hire a theater, you would have to do some marketing.
Yeah.
You would have to, which Janae is really good at, if anybody needs to know. You would have to have a list of artists that you want to work with, and you would have their bios. You would know how much it would cost for them to perform for you. What else do you need to know?
Is that the part at the bottom?
Yeah. I mean, one of them is that, you're doing this to push yourself, but also you're creating a space for people. So, for sure. We are, there are a lot of steps that we have to take to communicate our project ideas to the correct audiences. And in this case, the audience is the panelists. So what the panelists are trying to determine is if Candace has got enough information to actually pull this event off with the money that we are going to give her. So one of the ways that we do this is we're going to do another activity. So here's another activity where on the final 2 pages of this document is a project planning document. So we're going to spend a few minutes looking at this, thinking about our end goals. So our project is a shelter for pets, but we're going to do it creatively. We're going to have an event for men with depression. We're going to have an event for them, what was the event again? Remind me.
Just art space.
An art space, yeah. But we're going to have an exhibition, which is going to be the opening. So that's going to be the end project. But what are all of those things that you want to do to get to that point? We're going to start with the end, we're gonna put, don't think about the timeline in this, but do think about what the activities that you need to do. Think about the who's gonna do it. Think about what materials or supplies you might need to get there, how much it's gonna cost for each of those things. And then at the end, we can think about what order we're gonna do them in. So the order is probably the last thing, but we do need to think about every single step, because every single step that we do will inform all of the sections of most grants. So take a few minutes if you need me to come around and talk to you about what some of those activities might be in your particular case, just put your hand up, and I'll come and do that. I'll be right there. So does anybody want to detail some of their items? I'm going to try to poke holes in somebody's project. Well, yeah, so I mean, it's really up to you, but look, I mean, okay, sure. Let me come closer so they can hear you.
So a few things that we have.
Do you want to restate what your project is real quick?
Yes, so we are opening an animal cafe that's going to be a foster home for cats and dogs displaced by their humans dying or owner surrender situations that have to give their animals up. So where we are, we're needing to get building designs and then file for permits. We're waiting on a proposal for that. We have an architect firm. We have a tree that needs to come down. That's in the works. It's $1,300. We'll have a cleanup of the property, removing all of the leftover wood. That's going to be volunteers, so in kind, or providing lunch or something like that.
Always good to include your in-kind services in the proposal as well, because it adds value to your project. So if you do have anybody doing free labor, put it in the in-kind section.
And then placing the shipping containers, that's included. We have Logan Industries that we've gotten two shipping containers from. One was donated, one was donated from another organization. He donated one.
Again, that's a great in-kind donation that you should include.
One in kind, well, two in kind, one in kind, one donated, one
Mhm.
in kind, one donated, one donated. The placement of the shipping containers, I think he said it was about $800. Building out the facility, we have someone that's doing in-kind labor. We'll just have to pay for the materials. Furnishing the facility will be on myself and my partner. We'll be doing that through thrift finds, donations. We already have like a storage place that people have been giving us things already. Monthly rent, $300 or $350, and then our insurance, whatever that will be.
Yeah, that's expensive. I know my nonprofit insurance is like $2,000 a year. So, yeah.
Okay. So that's what I have so far.
Yeah. Okay. And just to make sure, because you're placing a shipping container, are you getting the right kind of, like, what kind of leveling are you doing?
That was also kind of the cleaning up the property. We'll level the property and.
And is it the right kind of like ground to like accept I've been there, so.
No, I love it.
But like talking to a lot of people, making sure that you're doing the right thing, making sure that you can do the permitting. I mean, all of those are like really great steps, and it really shows that you've really thought about this project. The more detail that you have about all of those things, the more that the panel will believe that you're able to do this and that there's, yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
So what was the question?
Well, why don't you restate what the project is and then just give us like a list of the steps that you're taking.
Okay, so a lot of artists struggle with mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to do what they do
Mm-hmm.
and create. And so the project is just to extend that to the community for people to come. So I've
So
already,
like provide a space.
correct,
Okay.
provide a space. And I've already talked to someone this week.
So is it going to be like an exhibition or a performance or what
More
is
like a workshop.
a workshop? Okay.
So there's different media that they can
Mhm.
use. I'm a songwriter, so they
Okay.
can, people want to do it through music.
Okay.
And they can do it through visual arts, through painting
Okay.
or sculpture.
So that during this workshop, they're creating pieces that
Correct.
address their mental health.
Correct.
Okay.
And so you just secured the artists for those particular media types.
hmm
And
So
it's-
like they're the experts.
Right, they're the
Okay.
experts.
And you're paying the experts?
What, through the grant, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it doesn't have a lot of overhead.
Uh-huh.
And so this particular project at this particular place, the owner that I spoke to this week, she sells art supplies there and has a workshop space.
Uh-huh.
So it can all be done in one.
Okay.
One space.
Okay.
And so, I'm sure you're gonna have
So
a
it's
little bit
like,
of food and drink just to, curb that.
Yeah.
But,
and so it's finding a date to hold the event or
Correct.
events.
and they leave with a tangible prize.
And they leave it the,
at the
is
end.
there going to be an exhibition of the projects at any point?
I didn't think of that, but
Mhm.
that's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, just some things to think about. Did somebody say something? Oh,
Can't share the plan without giving away the book.
okay.
So
Just
I wanna-
restate the project real
my
quick.
project is publishing a book.
Okay.
I have a manuscript, which is what they call it when it's not published.
Uh-huh.
So I want to find marketing,
Uh-huh.
going to events like this, going to state book fairs or writing conventions, networking in different ways, going where my book would sell. It's a devotional, so tea shops, coffee shops, local bookstores,
So you'll,
different-
so I'm just going to ask these questions real quick. So you're going to self-distribute?
I want to do that, but I also want to find a marketing team or someone who's.
A distributor,
Yes, a
yeah.
distributor. I do want to self-publish where I have the rights to do that, because I
Yeah.
want my book to end up in the right places.
Okay.
For
And
my
so
heart.
what are the costs associated? Like, what are you applying for a grant for specifically?
So the grant's basically gonna be, so I don't have to, the barcodes are expensive.
Uh-huh.
The printing is expensive.
Okay.
Marketing can be very expensive. I don't have, so I have the book
Uh-huh.
written, but I don't have all the pictures.
Okay.
I don't have all the publishing.
Uh-huh.
So I need marketing,
Uh-huh.
I need publishing.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm looking for donations by networking. I'm gonna be creating a lookbook, which we talked
Uh-huh.
about. In launch week. So
Like a book launch,
So
like an event or
creating
something.
different events leading up to when the book is going to be able to be sold.
Okay.
I know a bookstore owner, I know a tea shop owner who also has inventory, different places that I can invite, like you said, people who are willing to go for free. I know an artist that draws people animated. He'll sit and he'll do it for free just as an attraction
Mhm.
to the launch week.
Okay.
sign.
Sure.
So events,
Okay.
like put together,
Yeah.
free to the public.
And so do you know how long it takes to get between submitting your manuscript for publishing to actually receiving those things?
I don't, that's a
Okay,
learning
so
process for me.
that's something that you'll need to do. I definitely think that you should talk to other people who have been through the process, so that you can get a really good timeline of how long that takes as well. But I think people, the panelists would, love to know that you know the differences between the barcodes and self-publishing versus traditional publishing and why you're
I
going
want
down
the
that.
opportunity to Put my book where I want
Yeah.
it.
So,
Like
and
the heart of the community, the
Yeah.
tea shop, that's almost heaven nutrition. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where I want my book.
Yeah.
Like,
And so telling them why it's important for that to happen as well. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these things were answered. I mean, I had questions like, if we were doing a mural, who do I need to contact to ask to paint the mural on the blank wall that I keep walking past? Do I need a permit to paint that mural? How much does the permit cost? When does the activity need to happen? Should I get a permit to paint the mural after it's already started prepping the wall? Probably not. Probably you're gonna have to do that beforehand. So, um, So yeah, we've done this process. Obviously, this planning document really informs the panelists about all of those details that we were talking about. They want to see all of those details. The more details you have, the more it inspires that confidence that you can actually do it. Even if you need a lot of materials and supplies for your projects, so if we're thinking about a mural, we're going to need paint, we're going to need paintbrushes, we're going to need rollers, we're going to need all sorts of things. You could even start like a shopping cart on a website just to show us how much those things are going to cost. And then you're going to PDF that cart and you're going to add it as a supplemental document, which shows them that you've actually done the research you've gone to these lengths to really figure out how much these things are going to cost. Did you have a question? Yeah.
In regards to the ArtSpark, because we were focusing on that, and it could be applied to any grant, I'm assuming. But when you have that cap, depending on like where you are in your career, does it bode well to only list up to that amount that you would be awarded, or can you put everything your project and you'll just be?
No, that's a really good question. So Candace is asking whether, there's obviously a cap on grants, how much you can apply for. Particularly with ArtSpark, there's 3 different types of grants you can apply for: emerging, mid, or experienced. And there's a limit on how much you can apply for. But some projects cost more than those limits. So what the panelists are wanting to see is that you have a really good understanding of how much these projects cost to make overall. You're only going to get, $5,000, but you also have to tell us how you're going to pay for the rest of it. So in our budget, in the ArtSpark form, there's 3 columns. One is the grant column, which is what things are getting paid for by the grant. There's a second column that shows that that portion of that item is getting paid for by a different source. And in the budget justification, you would tell us where that source of funding is coming from, because even though you say that it's coming, that it's going to cost more, they want to know that you can still do this project with or without that additional funding. So they need to know where it's coming from.
What they could possibly do, not all they need to divulge everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would give us a full scope of the project. I mean, but I'm talking like, there are projects within projects. So like, if we think about a film project, those things cost hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, right? And so if we're focusing in on part of that film project, there's pre-production, there's production, there's post-production. But if we want to just focus in on, say, like the CGI portion of it, then that could be its standalone project. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would give an overview of the entire project, but then just hyper focus on the project within the project, because I don't want to see a budget for $3 million. Because I'm like, this $2,500 is not going to get you anywhere. Yeah, any communications you have that like supports the planning of your projects, that is also really great to add as a supplemental. So if you receive the permit to already do your mural, add that in. If you've got a promise from somebody to do your mural, even that helps, because it shows that you've actually gone out of your way to start those conversations. You're not starting at zero. You're not starting with just a spark of an idea. You actually have done research to show that you're serious about this. Okay, any questions before we really wrap it up? Okay. So I do want you to consider these 3 questions is why this, why you, why now? So why this project? Why are you the right person or organization to create this project? And why is now the right time for this? So knowing the answer to these questions helps because they're essentially the logic test for your application. And this is what the panel is applying against what you've written. So the question why this project, wait, yeah, okay. This forces you to articulate the purpose and the value of your work. It clarifies the problem. It's really giving us the details and the clarity that we need to know why you're doing it. Why are you the right person or organization? So this gives us the credibility and the feasibility. So when we're talking about your resume, the resume or the bios of the people that you're working with, you have a team of people that you're working with and you should trust us to do this job. And then why is now the right time? So this introduces urgency, it introduces relevance. So, what is in the zeitgeist right now that means that this project is the one that they want to fund? And with those 3 questions in mind, what it really helps you to do is sharpen your thinking before you ever start writing. It helps you to build a clear narrative that reviewers can quickly understand and defend. It demonstrates that the project is intentional, achievable, and timely. And basically, if you can answer all of these questions well, you're making it really easy for one of those panelists to say yes to your project. Things to remember. So, a lot of us have been there. We've all submitted applications. They've been either accepted or denied. It's really tough to get that rejection letter. But I just want to remind you that there are so many reasons why writing about this project is really helpful, whether you get it or not. So the first one, which I need my glasses for, writing is a practice. So the more you should be using grant writing as an artistic practice in of itself. It should be part of your practice. The more you write about your project and about your work, the easier it is for you to talk about your work in these applications. Okay, personal taste. That was one that I had. So personal taste. Getting a grant isn't the be all and end all. As I said, if you're writing it, you start to understand your project more and better. I think one of the things that you really need to understand about the review process, though, is that every year we have a different panel. Different people sit on different panels every year, which means that one year, a certain set of panelists might relate to one project more than they would relate to a different project. But the next year, a different panel might have a difference of opinion on that. So just because it didn't work out the first year, it doesn't mean that it won't work out in the next grant that you apply for, whether it's the same grant or a different grant. Different people, different interests. The stats. So does anyone want to take a guess on what percentage of ArtSpark grants are funded every year? Yeah, so if we have people apply, like what percentage of those people get a grant? 60%? Wow. Wow, that's also very high. Okay. Look, I'm actually gonna tell you about Creative Capital. So who knows what Creative Capital is? It's an artist-led organization. They do grants, they do workshops, they do have their professional development. They have artist grants every year for $50,000 for one artist. So when you apply, you get $50,000 to do whatever you want with. This previous cycle, they had 4,500 applications come through their doors. That's so many applications to read through, right? Does anyone want to guess how many of those got funded? 1%. Okay, so in better news, the ArtSpark Grant, the highest number of applicants we've ever had is 36 in 2024. And out of those 36, 9 projects got funded, which is 25%. So you have a really, really 1 in 4 chance of getting funded through the ArtSpark program. And a lot of regional grants have fewer applicants, which means that it's much easier to get through the door with a well-rounded application. I think I've said this a number of times today. Write with confidence, inspire confidence. The more details that you have, it inspires confidence in the panelists that you can actually do it. If you can answer those questions, who, what, where, when, why, how, with confidence, with your personality, I think it gets across to them. And then the other one that I wanted to refer back to is the guidelines. Read your guidelines, read them again, always read them. Make sure that they're matching up to what you're writing in your guidelines. But the other thing about the guidelines is that just because there isn't a question in the application that specifically refers to some part of the guidelines, it doesn't mean that we don't want to hear about it. So if there's something in the criteria that you're like, well, there's not a question that specifically addresses this criteria, it's not because we don't want to know about it. It's because there is a place for it, and it's just about finding the right place for it. It could be in the budget narrative. It could be in the bios. It could be in the outcomes. So it's just finding the right place. Always try to address as many of those criteria as possible. And then I do have a 6th one, but that's because I didn't want to upset the equilibrium. So I actually don't have a 6th point. I just wanted to post a note. Okay. Where to find more opportunities? This is for artists. I'm sorry for those who are not specifically here for arts opportunities. These are some really great resources for artists. Creative Capital, which I just told you about, $50,000 for one artist, but you have a very slim chance of artwork. Archive is really great for visual artists specifically. They have some fantastic resources. The New York Foundation for the Arts, they have a board of opportunities. If you all don't know, we also, they are coming out in September to do an entrepreneurial intensive for creatives. We did one last September. We're going to do it again this September. It's free, but it is a competitive process, so you would need to submit your application. Hyperallergenic is an arts publication, again, has like opportunities board. Culturalist, which is mentioned in the application, in the ArtSpark guidelines. It's a really great place to submit a artist profile and be seen by people searching. It's we have one for Acadiana, which is acadiana.culturalist, but it's Louisiana-wide plus some other states. And it has a section for opportunities, events, something else that I'm not coming to me. And then obviously Acadiana Center for the Arts, we have some other opportunities. ArtSpark is the only one for individual artists. At some point we were accepting them for the Louisiana Project Grant, but that is no longer the case.